Well, hello, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the podcast. Super excited to have today's guest, none other than Booker T. Washington boys head coach, multi-time state championship winning Mr. Eli Brown. Eli
Thank
Brown,
you.
how are you doing today, coach?
I'm doing well this morning. Thank you guys for having me on the show. Excited to be here.
Very cool, man. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off where it all started, man, because we had some epic battles back in the middle school
I
days.
don't even want to bring that up, man.
So I gotta ask, man, when was it that you knew? Because you played on some really good teams and you were
Yeah.
always around talented individuals. Was one of those individuals yourself. When did you know that coaching was going to be where you was going to make the most impact?
I remember in seventh grade, I wrote a letter about how much I love basketball. I still have that letter somewhere around my house. And just, I knew then that I really wanted to pick the game apart. And I knew then that, on the court for me wasn't going to be my best shot, but I studied the game and loved the game so much that I was a student. I used to go sit behind the bench at Booker T games and take notes. I had a little notepad when I was in seventh grade, and I would just take notes and write what coach would say in the huddles and say on the court and how he called his plays. And then when I got to BTW and just with the practices, and I was just taking mental notes the whole time I'm in practice. I'm taking mental notes about how practices ran and little drills and things like that. And then you watch how the best players. So when I was a freshman, you guys like Ryan Humphrey and those guys were seniors, and Marcus Hill and he had Antonio Reed and all those guys a couple of years ahead of me, along with my cousin BJ. And so it's like you just really take all of it in, and man, these guys on another level. And it's like, okay, I'm not on that level, but I do like to be able to control what's going on. And so from then in high school, it just kind of, you knew you wanted to be able to come back one day. And as a kid, it's just a dream to be able to come back and coach at your alma mater. And so I knew once I started coaching in '05 that I wanted one day be able to coach at Booker T. I didn't know how I was going to make that happen. I had no idea how if it was going to happen, but I just knew that's what I wanted. And so I just really asked a lot of questions but all that started in seventh grade when I wrote that letter to myself about how much I love basketball.
Awesome.
That's awesome, Coach. Jason talked about your battles with middle school. I remember
Mhm.
battling you when you were on the coaching side at Central.
I can't beat
You,
y'all.
you started out at Central,
Yeah.
taking that program to new heights, helping them bring home a state championship. And
Mhm.
after many years there, did you jump back to your alma mater, like you mentioned, my alma mater, Booker T? Can you talk
Mhm.
about the importance of your time at Central and also how you felt making that jump back to Booker T?
Well, being at Central was like it. That's where I grew up in terms of a coach, and that's why I was able to cut my teeth. And I was so blessed to have good players at Central, from my first year there to my last year there. And I mean, I don't care what anybody says, man. Good players make you a good coach. I mean, you have to have talent to win, and I had a lot of talent coming through my time at Central, and it allowed me to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes and get better as a coach. And then you start building relationships with former coaches. One thing that really excited me when I was at Central was having Terry Scott and even Nate Harris be a mentor while I was there and be able to, call them and talk to them. And I just remember Nate coming to some of my games as well as Terry Scott, of course. But you just see those guys that you always looked up to when you were in middle school and in high school, and then now that you're coaching, they become a mentor. And so being at Central, I was able to grow through all of that, have a relationship with Rod Thompson, and then be able to coach against guys like yourself and have to learn how to try to control great players, and really go against high level Division I kids like you were, Juwan. And you learn from that. And Central allowed that time for me to do that and grow. And then we were blessed to win the championship in 2015. And Elijah Landrum and guys like that, Cam Williams and guys like that were really good for us. Chaz Glover, Darius Ryan, those guys were really big for us in that championship run in 15 at Central. So just be able to win and put another banner up there at Central, number 13 up there at Central, and then be able to be blessed with the opportunity to coach at Booker T in 2020 was just like kind of my career goal in terms of being a head coach. And so going back home, man, it meant everything to me. You just want to keep working, and you don't want the tradition to die while you're there. You don't want it to have a huge gap while you're there. And you know that you got to win, and you got to win more than you lose. And so my first year was not fun. We were 2-9 that first year with COVID and not playing games and missing. It was just a crazy year, but the community and the building around at Booker T was just so inviting that and encouraging that it made me want to continue to work even harder that next year. And we got it turned around, and it's been kind of doing well ever since.
No, I remember that first year vividly, man, because I told our coaching staff at Muskogee at the time, if you're going to get them now, because they're
Yeah.
not going to be counted. And, when
Yeah.
I first took that job, I said, man, I see multiple state championships in your future. And
Yeah. You did.
well on your way up to that path. But
Thank you.
Your kid is working, training, playing AAU, posting highlights, and still no calls, no offers, no feedback. That frustration is real. The Pathway to College program helps parents understand why athletes get recruited, not just how hard they work. We teach you how to identify the right level, the right schools, and the right moves, so effort finally turns into opportunity.
I've always been super impressed is by how well organized and how hard your teams always play. as well as your sideline demeanor. Kind of talk about where does that come from?
Well, from studying under guys like Nate Harris and watching what how he used to create an atmosphere in practice that was just crazy, and you had to work hard. Yeah, it was just no exception. Everybody in practice, from the best guy to the worst guy, had to work their tail off. And I mean, coach used to push the crap out of us, and it was just unbelievable. But that was the standard that you walked into, and nobody complained. And if you complained, I mean, there was another five guys just as good as the first guy waiting for you to mess up. So if you didn't want to play hard, if you didn't want to do what you had to do, okay, well, here go, this guy was guys coming off the bench that was going D1 back then. And it was just phenomenal. And so that's what I patterned myself after the 48 minutes of hell from Coach Richardson trickled down to Coach Harris. And, I just wanted to have that same style of play. But then I wanted to, bring it into the 21st century and really be able to understand that, while playing fast is fun, it's hard. It's not easy. It's a lot of running outside of, in the game to really get your body in shape to do that. And all these kids say they want to play fast, and parents want their kids to play faster, but they got to understand it comes with giving up the ball as well, throwing the ball ahead and running.
Yep.
Running, and then being able to shorten the possessions for the defense while you're on defense, so that the offense can't use up a lot of clock, because there's no shot clock right now. And so you got to use your defense to kind of hurry the offense so you can get the ball back and keep playing those possession games. And that's not easy to do. And so, but that style was cultivated back when I was coming up, really watching the Nate Harrises of the world and wanting to try to be like those guys.
Well, talk a little bit more about that, Coach, because I think another great element that you've been able to retain in your program is you have a lot of quote-unquote star players, a lot of players who could, in today's day and age, transfer somewhere else and maybe be stars in their own right. How do you cultivate that buy-in in today's day and age where everybody wants their own team?
Right.
How are you building that type of culture? What are you telling parents and players in order to get them to buy into that?
Well, first of all, it's not easy. But I think it really starts with understanding that the relationship that I try to build with my players is one that lets them understand and know that here at Booker T, I mean, there hasn't been that many 20-point a night scores. Because there's always so much talent. And you have to understand that you may have some games where you might get 25, you might get 30, but it's not going to be in a game in and game out basis. But that also allows you to understand that when you get to college, it's going to be the same thing, that you got to play with other good players, and you got to be able to win with other good players around you and how to utilize your teammates. And I think that teams that have, one really good player is not a bad situation, but it can be hard for that kid to go to college and say, man, why am I not scoring 20 a night? Or why am I not even playing? Because I never was made to have to defend and guard and take charges and share the ball, move without the ball. So it can be difficult. And then it can be difficult if you've never had to carry the load and you're asked to carry more of a load when you get to college. So it depends on your situation, but I always try to tell our kids that you have to be ready for both. You have to be ready to carry a team. You have to be ready to be able to be a part of a team and maybe have a smaller role when you get to college, because usually that's the path for a lot of players, is that once they get to college, they have to have a smaller role. And so it's a continuous conversation with parents and kids about their futures, but also why, I've never had a coach call me and say, hey man, how much does he average? They always want to know other little things about that person's game. And then they ask about the parents as well. And what kind of parents does this kid have? And so you try to tell the parents that all those things are important, that they're watching you guys as well and not just the players.
Well, Coach, you touched on it, so we can stay on the topic, but nowadays with the NCAA going crazy, getting to college or getting to play in college basketball is harder than ever. Can you tell us some ways that you're helping your athletes gain perspective, gain opportunity, and any advice for the parents out there?
First of all, look at the landscape of where they are and be honest about their games, first of all, because, none of us want to say our child isn't the best or isn't better than so-and-so. We all want to put our child and our children on a pedestal, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that we have to be realistic, first of all, to understand what our goals should be, because our goals should have to adjust to where our level is as a player. And it's hard for a lot of players and a lot of parents to say, you know what, my kid is in Division I. And that's okay. If you really, really take a look at the percentages of Division I players in high school that get to go from high school, especially today's landscape of the transfers and the kids coming from the G League back to college. And so I make this analogy every year with my players who are upset that they may not have the offers that they want. And I say, okay, well, let me ask you this question. If I came to you guys right now and say, hey, I got this 8th grader coming in who is going to be pretty good one day. He's going to help us and he's going to help us win some games down the line. Or I can get this kid who's coming in as a junior who's got a body and he's played and he's been in the fire. Which one do you want as your teammate? And the usual answer is, I want the kid that's ready to be able to help me win. And so that's where we are, unfortunately, in the college landscape right now, where everybody wants to get older. Everybody wants to get older and more experienced. And that's what the rules allow. And so now you have to really say to yourself, okay, I am strongly considering junior college route. or going to a Division II level and maybe playing so well that I get to transfer up. But you have to just have those honest conversations with those parents and those players. But they also have to be realistic and understanding where their child is in terms of the level that they may be able to play at the next level.
That's awesome. In home, it looks like you got an elite point guard coming up in your own son. How has being the parent of a competitive athlete been different than what you expected?
As much as you want to praise them and show them off and do all that, I try not to do any of that because the unfair target that presents is crazy. I've seen it over and over again, but it's hard not to be so in love with how your child is playing that you want everybody to see it and you want everybody to feel it. But we know that there's a lot of parents and players that just see that, and it's just it just creates that target just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. They're already going to have a target because of who their parent is, and you don't want to create a bigger target for your kid. And so that's been the thing with me, is just trying to stay to myself in terms of not boasting or bragging or just really trying to show that he's this or he's that, and just let him create his own path, so that he can have fun with it. Because I want to be able to say one day, if he just stops it, that didn't define you. That basketball is not all that defines you. You're more than just a basketball player, because that ball's gonna stop bouncing for you anyway at some point. No matter how far you go, it's about to stop for LeBron maybe. So it's got to stop at some point. And so I just try to make sure that he's more loved, not because of what he does on the court, but because of what he does as a human being. And that can be hard sometimes. Like, your son has a great game and you're like, man, I want everybody to see it, but you're like, it can create jealousy within the team and envy, and you just don't want that for your son. So I just try to lay low and just cheer him on from afar, but just not be that guy who does a lot of coaching from the stands. But I am real with my son in terms of, you not doing this and you not doing that, and for me, I'm looking at the defensive side like, hey man, you got to play harder. You want to play for me one day. You got to come with it, man. You're not playing hard enough. So, but it's not an easy thing to be able to have a kid that can play in this era, because everything's on video. And one thing I try to tell my family is that let other people post about you, and if they post about you, you can reshare. But showing off, and EJ scored 25 points tonight, 5 rebounds, and then I'm blasting all this out, and all of a sudden it's just people come watch him play, and then as soon as he make a mistake, oh, see, he ain't as good as Coach said he was. So dealing with that, I just don't want to put that on him, and so I just praise him at home, and then during the game, and try to whether we win or lose, understand it's middle school basketball, and hopefully you just have a good time with it.
Yeah.
At JP3 Training, our goal is not to just get good at drills. We actually want to see skills convert into game situations. And to do this, we take a comprehensive approach, because I'm a big believer that you can't grow what you don't know about your athlete. So that means we work closely with our athletes to go beyond the training sessions to provide mentorship that actually moves them out of areas where they might be stuck and helps them to move forward with confidence. So if you're ready to accelerate your athlete's confidence and activate enhanced performance, book a call today and find out all the ways we can help grow your athlete's game.
Well, it's tough too, because your platform goes beyond just Eli Brown. You have a platform that represents your organization, represents the entire culture, and sometimes those things get intermingled, and so people are like, it gives an extra opportunity to say something negative. So those situations are always tough. One thing that I have noticed about EJ watching him play is he's got a great love for the sport, a great energy. What are some things you and your wife have done in order to keep him engaged and loving the sport and kind of shelter from some of that negativity?
Well, just me not being a maniac when it comes to playing, and I'm not gonna say I've never been there. I have been there, and it just, the one thing I noticed is, as soon as I backed off of really, and this was about 4 years ago, just letting him play and have fun, and it became more fun for him, that I wasn't so hard on him all the time. And there was this guy, oh my gosh, he played at Central, Ralph Highshaw. He made a statement about a month ago on Facebook. He was talking to someone and replying in the comments, and this was so profound to me. It was a coach talking about little kids turning the ball over, and I'm thinking about how hard I used to be on my son about turning the ball over. And he said, without the turnovers, you don't have the learning. And I'm like, man, that is so true. Like, there shouldn't be any turnovers when you're coming up and trying to learn how to play, because without the mistakes, you can't learn how to play the game. And if you're fearful of the mistakes, you're not going to even try certain things. And that really stuck out to me. And this was about a month ago. And I really told my son, like, okay, you have to learn to just play loose and not worry about your turnovers, because you're still learning how to play the game. You're in the 7th grade. You're 13 years old. You're trying to figure it out. And if you are playing so scared that you don't want to turn it over, you're gonna make more mistakes.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a new revelation for me, just to kind of let go of the harping on the turnovers and all of this. I mean, he tried one time in the game to throw a behind the back pass and it got turned over, but and I got on him, and then I was like, man, what are you doing? You don't need to try to do all that. And it's like, well, how else is he gonna learn?
Yeah, that's part of it.
That's part of but the coach is like, man, you need to sit down. But that was profound. Just to but I say all that to say is that you can just learn so much from anybody, and when it comes to trying to help you navigate how to coach and teach your kid as a player, and I try to do that.
Awesome. So, Coach, state champion at Booker T last year. This year, you're looking to defend, bring home yet another ring. How is this year's team different than last year's state title team?
Oh, losing a kid like BJ Harris, who could just put his head down, go get a bucket whenever he wanted to, and was so athletic and finishing with both hands around the rim is huge. And he was so strong and had so much experience. So that you missed that. And then a kid like Jamari Simpson, who was just our backbone, our physical, our aggressive, backbone. The glue guy. He was the glue guy who did all the dirty work, but also could get you a bucket when you needed one, a tough bucket, and guard the other team's best player if they was 6'7", 6'8", or 5'7". And so he was a Swiss Army knife defensively for us as well. So you lose those two starters, and you try to figure out how to make that up. And that's not hard to make up. And I think we missed that at times. Just that general toughness that Jamari brought and the ability to get easy baskets for us without having to run a play was with BJ. And so you don't see that as much because a district play is not as strong as maybe conference play would have been. So you don't have to see it until you need it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like the Millwood game, I thought we needed both of those, and you don't realize you don't have that until you play a team like Millwood, who makes you get exposed that you need that. And so, but that's why you play those types of games in the season, so you can fix those issues before it becomes playoffs. And so we're trying to make this run and get back to the state championship game. And I often think about you guys were part of a back-to-back, and it's just like you want that. That's the history. That's the aura of being at Booker T, is to win championships and win multiple ones. And so that's what we're after. And we're just trying to stay humble. We had a discussion last night about it. Like, you don't want to look ahead, and you don't want to size your ring and Google what rings you want. You have to wait and earn it first. And sometimes kids can look ahead, and sometimes adults can too. So trying to be able to navigate that and understand that there's games ahead of you before we can get to that point that we got to take care of.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. Coach, I want to talk a little bit about transfers. Obviously, hot topic in and throughout Oklahoma, really everywhere throughout the nation. As a coach, I'm sure you have benefited from some transfers and also been on the other side of that. Talk to me about what is your thoughts behind transfers, and what is your advice to parents who may be feeling like it's time for a transfer?
Make sure you look at fit as a coach and as a player and as a parent. You don't want to have a transfer come in that's not going to be a good fit for your program and your culture. And parents, you don't want to transfer somewhere because of one certain thing, whether it's the name on the jersey or the teammates next to them. You want to take all of that into account, and you really want to be able to look at what's best for my kid and what's best for my kid long term. And all of those things to me are important. Who you play with is important, but who you are coached by is important as well. And who you sit next to in class is important as well. And I think that all those things matter because they all help shape who your son is going to be when that ball stops bouncing, because it's going to stop bouncing. And so you want to make sure that school that you are deciding between for your son or daughter has really good culture, or the ability to say my kid can come in and help affect culture in a positive way so that we can build the culture that we're looking for. Some coaches are stubborn. They are who they are, and they don't want to be shaped in another way. So if you looking at that program and that culture doesn't align with who you think your son or daughter wants to be later on down the line, then and that coach may not be ready to kind of be shaped into looking at a different way of looking at things, then it could be not a positive situation for your kid. So you have to take all that into consideration. A kid can be successful at Webster, and a kid can be successful at Jenks. A kid can be successful at Booker T, a kid can be successful at Edison. And it just depends on what you're looking for, what the fit you need, and being able to be realistic about, where your son or daughter might fit into that situation.
That's good. Good stuff, man. Well, Coach, I got to tell you, thank you. Absolutely appreciate you being on with us today. Best of luck as you look to end the season, and thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you guys
Coach.
for having me. Thank you, man. I've always looked up to the Parker family, and so tell your mom and dad I said hello, and thank you guys both. Maybe one day I get to beat y'all one day. I don't know.
Man, you got plenty of hands. And I'd like to thank all of our guests for watching. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted next time we drop a new podcast episode. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.